Welcome in. It's Fair and Balanced. Oh my God. It's a win.
It's a win for the first time in almost a calendar year. The Bears have not won at home in well over a calendar year. So at least we have that now to look forward to for the next Bears
Yeah.
W.
I tweeted out after the game, it's like from Talladega Nights, what do I do with my hands? I don't know what to do with my hands. Like what is this? What do I wear something special on the show? I almost texted you. Do we do something special after wins? Because
It's
it's just
been a
like
while. I
it's
forgot.
been so
Yeah.
long. It's been so long. Feels so good.
Yes.
Also, Bears Twitter has been such a much more calm place over the last 4 or 5 days than it has been for
Yeah.
the last however long. So that's nice.
Winning cures a lot, which is fun to see. And we'll see how this keeps going. I mean, Vikings up next. That's a winnable game. The Raiders after that. That's a winnable game. What happens if this team's all of a sudden they're sitting there at 3-4, squarely in the playoff mix now in the NFC? Because you look at the NFC, it's still the NFC. You're like, I don't know, man. Things can switch really quickly from where we were all like in dread just a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, it's pretty funny because you look at the everybody. Oh, they're not even going to win a game. Like they're going to lose to the Panthers, right? There's all this talk, and then you win a game, you look good, right? The the offense scores a ton of points, the defense starts flying around the football a little bit, right? They start getting a little confidence, and you're like, well, these are winnable games. I mean, the Vikings are down, you got them twice, I mean, we could probably take Green Bay, right? And then you just start listing all these things, and I got like 9, 10 wins here, guys. You're like, whoa, it's one
Back at
game.
it.
Let's take it one game at a time, and let's see where this thing goes. But yeah, it's fun. It's fun to see everything flip.
It's just all it takes just to get that one win, and now the ball's rolling downhill. Let's go. We're
Let's
ready.
start a different kind of streak. That's what I'm saying.
Yes. Oh man.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know about that. Let's do it though.
Hey man, you get one more win, it's a winning streak, right?
That's the
Yeah.
classic line.
Okay. You want to do a podcast?
Let's do it.
All right. Let me write down a timestamp here.
You're so good at that.
Welcome to Fair and Balanced. I'm Jeff Berckes, a writer for Windy City Gridiron, and I'm joined by the editor of that fine website, Lester A. Wiltfong Jr. Lester, it's been almost a year since we've been able to say this. Chicago Bears won a football game. How you doing?
I'm doing good. It's so weird. We're talking on the pre-show. We're like, did we have some special, thing we do on wins? We're like, I can't remember. It's been so long, but yeah, it's a Bears dub. It's exciting time to be a Bears fan. The narrative is slowly shifting. 2 weeks in a row now, the offense looked competent. Coach Flus is calling some blitzes. His defense made some plays. It's like, what's going on? So it's we'll see what happens, man. Vikings coming up this week. Win there, man. Things really can change.
Yeah, it's interesting just how, calmer everybody is, right? We finally broke that 14-game losing streak. You get in the win column, people are like, okay, finally we're seeing some stuff. Like you said, you're seeing Coach Flus maybe go against what he's normally into, which is actually trying to manufacture pressure, which was nice to see. You're seeing Justin Fields back-to-back games now with 4 touchdown passes. That's pretty impressive. Back-to-back weeks where he's nominated for that Air Player of the Week thing, so that's great. Maybe he can win it this week, particularly since the Bears got the W. Before we get into Trench Tribute, we always start with Trench Tribute here, but I thought special occasion here. Let's talk about Dick Butkus.
Yeah.
So we lost Dick Butkus Wednesday night into Thursday morning. We found out before the game. And one of, I would say, a handful of Chicago Bears that always makes the top 5 lists, right? I think on our list, he was the 3rd best player, the 2nd best player, one of the 2. It's usually him and Gale Sayers, which is interesting because they came in, drafted together, and then so closely tied at the hip and became lifelong friends. And of course, we lost Gale a couple years ago. This is a big deal when you lose an icon like this. University of Illinois graduate, real Chicago through and through. It meant so much to the organization, and even up to this season was hosting some tailgate parties, was at the stadium trying to whip the fans up into a frenzy. So still involved at his late age. His numbers, of course, retired. I mean, I just the accolades, the impact on the organization cannot be stated in a 2-minute tribute up at the top of a podcast episode. We could do a whole series, but I just wanted to kind of put it out there for everybody and for you in particular. Like, what do you think of when you think of Dick Butkus?
Just he is, in my opinion, the best linebacker ever. Just the stuff he did in that era. I mean, the interceptions, the coverage, sacks weren't a stat obviously back then, but he would rush the passer. He did everything for the Chicago Bears, and I'm always asked, if there's someone you could have seen play, he's the one guy that I really wish I could have seen play. Just the violence he played the game with, the fun he played the game with. There's so many clips that you see out there. There's the one, I think it was the missed field goal. He catches the ball and he kind of just he has it as to taunt the guy. There's another one where it's a interception where he gets it and mid play he stops and he just kind of taunts the guy and I'm like, what is happening? And then of course, when his playing career is over, he went on to acting, did a lot of great stuff there. Just, I mean, I don't get too emotional over celebrities or athletes, when things happen. But man, this one kind of hit me, man, because it's like I always tell a story that Walter Payton is the guy that why I became a Bears fan. I didn't really know much about Bears. I was kind of following another team. I turned on to Payton. But then, of course, NFL Films was huge back then. And so, of course, I'm a Bears guy now. It's even in my youth, I dove all in. I started going back to NFL Films. Dick Butkus, oh my God, this guy was remarkable. So, yeah, it's a tough one for Bears fans. I mean, I know Jack Silverstein's working on a big article right now. He's got coming out. He's been texting me stuff that he finds through he has that newspapers.com thing he has, and he's finding old stuff from his high school days. It's like this guy was probably one of the greatest, athletes ever to come out of the state of Illinois. Just remarkable the stuff he did, on football, and it's just it's a tough one. This one for Bears fans.
Yeah, again, you talk about Walter Payton, you talk about Gale Sayers, you talk about Dick Butkus, and there you go. I mean, if you want to expand the list a little bit, then you start talking about guys that came before that, or maybe Mike Ditka, right? That you're really talking about the history of the Bears, but you can't tell the history of the Bears without talking about Dick Butkus. And I think something you said is really important in terms of his play on the field. I think the character off the field is amazing and was so important as well, but so good in coverage. And this is not like a 2-down thumper. Like you think oh, old linebacker, he's just the guy that was just cracking heads and that's all he was. No, he was really legitimately good in coverage. And and no one talks about that, right? But he was legitimately good. And I think about him a lot more like Urlacher in terms of what Urlacher brought to the game, really kind of changing with cover 2 and be able to drop deep and all that. Butkus probably wasn't doing that. He didn't need to back then, but he could really cover the middle of the field in the passing game. And he was just dominating from side to side, sideline to sideline in stopping the run. And some of the times that he'll pop up in some of those NFL films are some of my favorites too. There's an Edo Bradovich clip that's all about Edo Bradovich, but of course they talk about Butkus, and there's some really good stories there. And he'll come on and he's laughing. He just has a contagious laugh as well, right? I mean, I never met the guy. I don't know him, but you see a clip of him and he's laughing, and you can't help but kind of chuckle yourself. You really get in again that kind of character, and then you see him on the field and he's like, I want to put you in the hospital. He plays with that old school linebacker mentality. So, obviously incredibly important to the Bears organization, incredibly big personality and had a great impact on a lot of Bears fans. And so, yeah, like you said, this one hurts, and just wanted to kind of start off the show that way. And the Bears did come through with a victory on a Thursday night football game, and reminiscent of other greats that we've lost in the past where the Bears have responded, right? The Peyton game coming to mind quickly. So we will move on to our trench tribute here. So we've talked in past shows this is kind of tough this week, and we kind of go back to kind of stretching a little bit, or maybe we find a guy that we think pretty good. We had our options here, but who did you go with?
like you said, I could have went a lot of different directions, but I wanted to go with Nate Davis. I kind
Nice.
of went back and watched this play, and it's like he's coming into his own now. You're starting to see the player the Bears signed. Obviously, he had the issue. There was a death in the family. It ended up, found out it was his mother. So it's like, oh my goodness, it's no wonder he was kind of going through it. That's, people hear a death in the family, someone close to the family, no one knows. Mother hits different, man. I mean, that's, I've lost my mother. It's just one of those things where, it takes you out of it. So he had to take some time. She was sick for a long time leading up to her final passing. So he was taking care of business. He had to do what he had to do. He had to be there for his family. Um, but he's been back now 2 weeks. I thought he was okay last week, and then this week you're starting to see it. I didn't realize he is so good. Like when you look at his RAS numbers, he doesn't test as well as you would think, but he plays faster than he tests. A lot of plays he's out in front on screens. He's getting downfield. He's really good on the twists and the stunts. I think he's going to be good being next to Darnell Wright, who's a rookie, and then whoever ends up playing center, because he's just smart. I mean, the stuff on the right side, there were no instances where he screwed up a stunt. He was there, he was passing off correctly, and he's looking for work. There's times where he's just kind of sitting there, no one to block, and then he just, well, this guy's engaged with my center. I'm going to go pop him just because that's what offensive linemen do. They want to have some physicality. They want to make a statement, and that was Nate Davis this week. I like what he's doing, and I can't wait to see him kind of really round into the shape and be the player that Bears expect him to be.
Yeah, it's a great call. It's one of the 2 names that I have listed on my sheet today, and when I went back and watched, I was, like, just waiting for somebody to kinda pop, like, just watching the lines when I do the replay, and I was like, okay, he's starting to come into his own, and like you say, we talked about it, we didn't know what was happening, we would have loved to have had a little bit more, clarity in messaging. It's clearly a personal issue. We certainly gave that benefit of the doubt to him, and, obviously a tough personal situation, and he's bouncing back from that with his play on the field. I went the other side of the ball with mine. Andrew Billings continues to be just pop off film. I mean,
Yeah.
this guy continues to just look like a stud. Uh, I mean, we're getting to the point now where it's like we need to start talking about Andrew Billings signing an extension because he's that
Yes, for
good, right?
sure.
He needs to be part of this rotation. There were plays where he was just in the backfield, and I found it hilarious that Kirk Herbstreit said he was undersized. I need to know what Kirk Herbstreit thinks a properly sized human being is because he's massive. I think maybe he's just means that he's shorter than
I
like
think he was going the shortest. I think
yeah,
he checks in at 6'1", which
right.
it's a little smaller. But if you're going to play the D line and you're 6'1", you're playing tackle.
Right, and that's totally normal, right?
Yeah.
To kind of the fire hydrant type build. Again, like I'm 6 foot 6'1", so like I don't find that particularly short, but I do understand like as a professional defensive lineman that looks a little short, but when you're that wide, when you're 315, okay, well, I'm not sure that's a real number for him. But if he steps on the scale, I think it's probably a little bit bigger, but he's just really can take over that interior line, and that can control the run. It can get interior pressure, and that can have a big impact on the game. I think he's been really good, and so obviously with a big guy like that, you want to see if he can continue that play throughout the long 17 game schedule because a lot guys like that can kind of wear down. But if you are keeping him in a rotation and keeping him fresh, you should be able to get really good snaps from him throughout the entire year. This was a guy I liked when they signed him. I don't see why you don't bring him back at this point.
Well, he's bounced around. I mean, the Bears are his third team, I believe. So it's like, it makes you wonder why isn't he stuck before? I know there was an injury early in his career, so maybe they kind of set him back a little bit as far as his progression. Taylor Dahl interviewed Coach Marvin Lewis, who had him, of course, with the Cincinnati Bengals. They talked about that, how his rookie year is pretty much lost. So maybe they just set him back and they kind of put him behind things. He had to catch up and get that knee right. But now here he is, and like you said, he looks like he's definitely a guy you want to think about extending. I've had some Bears fans mention that it was similar to the Akeem Hicks situation. The Bears signed Akeem Hicks, kind of came out of nowhere, and he just found a home. It just sometimes it just clicks, and then it could be the defense, just could be the point he is in his career. He's reading things right. He understands the game better. Things have slowed down for him. He understands that what the offensive linemen are trying to do to him. So I have no problem. If Billings is the guy, he keeps this up. I think the Bears should definitely think about, giving him some new paper.
Yep, I love it. Let's move on to the world of Twitter, which again, like I said, has been much calmer.
Yeah.
And the theme of this show, by nobody's going to be surprised, is going to be a wide receiver here. So I'm gonna start with mine. This is from at Theoden King 58. Again, Theoden King it by itself was taken. Theoden King 1 through 57. I don't know what's happening with all these numbers at the end of these handles, but at Theoden King says his hottest take was that DJ Moore breaks Brandon Marshall's single season receptions record. And so I went back and looked at Chicago Bears single season receiving records just to see what they're at. And Brandon Marshall does own the single season reception record at 118 catches from 2012. He also owns the single season yardage record, from what I could find, 1508. And then the record for most touchdowns in a season, receiving touchdowns in a season, is 13, owned by two individuals. Do you know them?
Ken
Put you on the
Kavanaugh.
spot. Ken Kavanaugh is one. Absolutely. You got the
And
other
is the
one?
second one is I want to say Harlan Hill, but I think that might be too obvious of a reach there. Yeah. Is it
Yeah.
Alshon?
No, it's actually Dick Gordon.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. That makes sense.
So yeah, Kavanaugh's record, that's kind of unreal because it's way back in the 40s. So that's been standing for a long time. We'll put it that way. So if you look at it, and this is always fun to do projections right after a giant game because the numbers are going to spike a little bit here, but there's been a couple games where I think the numbers were depressed. So maybe that evens out. Maybe these numbers are close to sustainable. But if you take
Week one right there, 2 catches in week one. It's like
right,
they forgot who they traded for the first
right,
week. They got in
right.
their own head. They're like, oh, I'm sure the Packers will expect it. So let's use him as a decoy. No, use him as the man because that's
Use
who
them
the
as
hell he is.
this. This
Yeah.
this was the right thing to do. This is what we've been saying all year,
Yeah.
right? So this is a little bit of a we talked about this before we started. We popped on here. A little bit of a victory lap here. It's maybe an obvious victory lap, but it is a bit of a victory lap for me. This is what I have been saying all offseason. But if you take this pace and apply it for the rest of the year, he's on track for 92 receptions, 1,805 yards, and 17 touchdowns. So that would break two of the three receiving records
Wow.
in single season history. So I don't know what is most. I mean, everything's in play, but I think the yardage is actually probably the most breakable for Moore this year.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, he's just so good after the catch too. I mean, that's one thing that it's this is who a legit wide receiver one. It's we talk about like why are they not running more stuff through him? I mean, just let everything build off what he does. We've talked about it every show how Luke Getsy should understand that he comes from a system, he comes from of an offense where they did that with the number one receiver. That's DJ Moore, man. I mean, he looked outstanding. Just he's the guy. I mean, there's no point. That kind of leads me to my tweet. Mark Potash. We always watch other games, and with the Bears on Thursday, we're all watching the games on Sunday. So he tweeted this out during the Jaguars game. It must be nice for Bears fans to finally watch a player like Calvin Ridley make a clutch catch and not think to themselves, the Bears need a wide receiver like that because they have one now. DJ Moore, man, it's just it's like you said, it's so weird. I mean, just to think the Bears have a modern style passing offense coming up now because DJ Moore just really sets that room up. There's still some issues there. I mean, they're still going through stuff. The Chase Claypool trade obviously happened. That was a mistake, a swing and a miss by Ryan Poles. But I don't think they're going to miss it because they never had it to begin with. So someone will step in, and then this just leaves some more targets for DJ Moore, which is I'm fine with.
Yeah, I guess if you missed it, the Bears did trade Chase Claypool to the Miami Dolphins. It is a swap of late round picks in 2025.
Yeah.
So it is, and I mean, like the Bears get the Dolphins sixth rounder, and the in 2025, and the Dolphins get Claypool and the Bears seventh rounder. So you don't even get an extra selection. You get a move up from seventh round territory into sixth round territory to dump Chase Claypool. So not a great return on the number 32 overall pick, which of course we didn't know what that was and all that blah blah
Yeah.
blah blah blah. it's a bad trade, right? Now, the original trade. Now, the the positive that you can take from that is that Ryan Poles was not willing to go down with the Claypool ship, right? Like he admitted his mistake and got him off the roster, right? I don't. That's a no value real trade there to me. Like it's not like you say, well, you got something for it. Not really. Like that's there's very little that's going to come out of that. But you were willing to move on from your mistake. I think that's the takeaway. There are some GMs that won't do that, and so at least you got to give them a little credit for that. It does suck, but at least we have a little addition by subtraction. Claypool is now no longer here. Whatever the heck they were trying to do with Claypool in the mix was not working. And 2 games without Claypool in the lineup have been much more productive than the 3 that where he was in.
It's strange because he did have a nice offseason. Yeah, there was the weird stuff going on where, fans were upset because he was doing fashion things. But, when he was at practice, he looked good. I mean, there was some beat writers that were there from like the cover of the NFL nationally. Even they were talking about Claypool looks like if they didn't know DJ Moore was on the field, they said Claypool looks like the number 1. He looks that good, and it just didn't work out. It makes you wonder what was going on behind the scenes. What was going on in the locker room? Was there other stuff happening there where just a personality clash, things didn't work? Because the talent is there. I mean, we saw it. We'll see what happens in Miami. I mean, I'm not sure how much they expect out of him in Miami. I know there was some talk about maybe playing tight end with them. I don't know. I mean, his blocking wasn't the best as a receiver. No, I mean, I'm sure that's a good coach. That's a good offensive coach there, Mike McDaniel. They'll figure something out. He'll be fine, and then he'll have some big plays, and then at some point, it's going to happen. Then Bears fans will be upset because Claypool got away and did something from Miami. But I think the Bears are in a better place now with what they have now.
Why doesn't anybody ever ask us to go do fashion stuff?
Right?
I mean, come on.
We
We're
can do it.
available.
We are.
Yeah, fly us out to Paris. We'll go on the runway.
Nice.
Look at the stuff we're rocking, right?
You're ready.
Anyway, all right, let's move on to caught up in a numbers game. Our stat of the week. Again, I think we're rolling with DJ Moore stats. But mine is kind of a combined DJ Moore, Justin Fields stat. Justin Fields' passer rating when targeting DJ Moore is a perfect 158.3. Those numbers are 27 of 34, which is incredible. 531 yards, 5 touchdowns, no interceptions. So once again, when I have said run the offense through DJ Moore, this is why. Now this is not sustainable. You can't expect this, but this is why you try to run your offense through your number 1 wide receiver, because he can take the volume and everything else will open up off of it. So if opponents now try to take him away with bracket coverage or whatever, then you will have better, more advantageous matchups elsewhere, right? So that'll be the shift that'll happen. So teams come after more. We'll see if Mooney opens up more. We'll see if Cole Kmet opens up more. We'll see if fill in the blank, whoever else wants to run a route on this team, opens up more. So that's really why you try to do this and pepper a guy with targets like this, because if it make a defense try to take him away, because right now no one can.
Yeah, it's not like the Bears are going to him too much, because his target share is it's comparable to other ones around the league, but he's catching like 70% of the balls that are thrown his way. So it's like, like a guy like Mooney, for example, a few years ago when he had that great season, he had a lot of targets to generate those catches and those yards. That's not DJ Moore. DJ Moore is actually like efficient, and the numbers dictate it. Perfect passer rating. So, like I said, it's not going to keep up. But as teams will start realizing, this guy's legit. I'm sure they already knew it to an extent, but man, if the Bears can figure out some way to scheme some touches up for him, I want to see him on some jet sweeps, some end arounds. I want to see the ball in his hands as much as possible, because I just think he's that good and he's that much of a threat to take it to the house. And it gives the defense something else to think about if you're showing other looks with DJ Moore.
Absolutely. What about you? What'd you have?
I'm not as DJ Moore-ish. I'm more Justin Fields here. So my number this week is 7.2. 7.2%. That's Justin Fields' touchdown percentage.
Oh, wow.
That leads the NFL. I know when he had those touchdown passes on Thursday night, a lot of talk on Twitter was, hey, Justin Fields leads the league in touchdowns. So, of course, some haters It's Thursday. Other teams will come in. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. So, but the percentage, he is tops in the league right now, 7.2%, 11 touchdowns, 152 attempts. That is the 11 touchdowns is second in the league. Someone passed them up there. I think it was Josh Allen or Kirk Cousins, one of those guys. I forget. Last year, his percentage in touchdowns was 5.2. So it's a significant jump. And I'm sure it's sure to change, but 7.2 touchdown percentage for the Bears right now. That's the highest for a Bears quarterback in a season since 1964.
Oh,
Rudy Butkus.
jeez.
He had a 7.5 touchdown percentage. He played in 9 games that year, 4 starts, 160 attempts he had that season. So if Fields were to stop right now, that's the best since 64.
So throwing a Dick Gordon? What's happening with that?
Was that
Um,
64? Was that
I
Dick
have no
Gordon's year?
idea. I
I'm
I
not
might
sure
be
who it
off a
is.
decade, honestly. I have no
You
idea.
know, and then
Uh,
for the Eric Kramer's touchdown record, everyone talks about that as like the holy grail for Bears, because they never had a 30 touchdown guy. It's 29 is the record. Kramer's year of 1995, it was 5.6% was his touchdown percentage that year. So Fields is
uh,
on pace to break that record.
Dick Gordon's rookie year was 1965. I'm sorry that I missed that.
One
And
year off.
his 13 touchdown year was 1970. So
Okay.
sorry, I did not look that up beforehand. And I'm not Jack. I do not keep these things in my
Yeah, it's not
head.
like right there. Yeah.
So no, it's not right there. I can get ballpark, but I can't get that close. Okay, well, good stuff. It doesn't
Fun
approach
numbers when the Bears win.
fun numbers when they win,
Man,
right? That's what you get. You get a
yeah.
win, you get fun numbers.
Yeah.
The Luckman touchdown percent number from like 43 is like
13
it's like an
point something.
insane
Yeah,
number. It
it's
doesn't even make
ridiculous. Yeah.
sense. Yeah, yeah, he's playing against insurance salesman that year, but we won't talk about that. All right, so let's talk about Fields. That's a good intro into the
Fields
Field
report.
report.
Yeah.
So 15 to 29 for 282 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, 4 touchdowns for the second straight week. Took 3 sacks, only lost 9 yards on those sacks, so they weren't big time yardage losers. And then 11 carries for 59 yards, so a little more active on the ground. I heard a little bit of, oh, well, that, 15 to 29, like, yeah, it's pretty inefficient. Okay, but there were some throwaways, right? There's some
Yes.
knockdowns, which the knockdowns need to kind of stop. We need to figure that out. But there was a few plays that just weren't. They, a few throwaways are fine, right? Like that. You watch Rodgers from the past; he would throw the ball away all the time to try to protect himself. Sometimes that's fine, right? Throw the ball away, live to play another down. You don't have to force everything. But overall, those are pretty good stats for Justin Fields for the second straight week. I mean, that's how you score 40 points in an NFL game, is that your quarterback plays well. So that should not be a surprise. But does this give you a sense of what Fields can be for the rest of the year? Do you feel like this was, well, it was the Broncos game, we've got a really bad defense, and then this was, kind of random? Or like, where are you at with what Justin Fields has put on the field over the last 2 weeks?
Well, the Broncos stink. I mean, that's a horrible defense. But the Commanders, that's not a bad defense. I mean, their secondary has some issues, but their front four is outstanding. Obviously, they're all first round draft picks there. And I thought this was one of Justin Fields' best games ever because, like you said, part of it is throwaways. He was smart with the ball. He got rid of it when he had to. The 3 sacks he took. One of the sacks I think may have been a designed draw, which is something that happened last week as well against the Broncos. I saw a run. I'm like, this looks like it's a counter play, but they're calling it a sack, and I'm like, it is what it is. So I broke it down. But same thing this week. I think he got dinged for a sack. Should have been a sack, but he was smart with the ball. No turnovers, this week, which is something you want to see out of Justin Fields. And then I saw a report today. I wish I would have grabbed it. It was on Twitter. I forget who said it, but someone said that they believe Justin Fields is seeing the field better than he has this whole career. His eyes are up. His eyes aren't down. That kind of helps you think as you work through your progressions. We talk about how Justin Fields, early in the year, like he was seeing ghosts. Like he's expecting pressure when it's not there. He's drifting in the pocket when he shouldn't. This week, he stood tall. I went back and watched that film. There were several times where he stood tall in the pocket and he got popped after throwing the ball because he was trusting what he was having up front from his line. He was trusting his receivers and he was making the play. And if this is the Justin Fields going forward, a lot of that Caleb Williams talk is going to be on the sideline.
Yeah, I mean, and again, we talked about it last week. He has to, I think, prove to Ryan Poles and the rest of the Bears brass that he can be, or he already is, one of the, if not the best quarterbacks in the conference, right? I mean, forget about Mahomes and all that stuff on the AFC. All the best quarterbacks are in the AFC. We know this, but right now it's basically Jalen Hurts and who else?
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of question marks of who can be the best quarterback in the conference. And so I think you have to be able to make a legitimate argument that it's Justin Fields at the end of the year if you had that opportunity to select number one overall. And if not, an amazing scenario. If you have the number one overall pick with a generational talent and you have a player that you believe in Justin Fields, then you continue to be able to trade out of that number one pick for the second year in a row and get even more picks. And this, I think, would be even more fruitful than
Oh yeah.
last year, right? Like, I mean, people liked Bryce Young, obviously, but and CJ Stroud, but they didn't love them to the extent that they are talking about Caleb Williams and even May right now.
Yeah.
And so there's just a bigger groundswell of interest in those two prospects. So I mean, a lot can change and a lot will change between now and then, but that would be a pretty incredible result for the Chicago Bears organization and Bears fans.
I'm ready for it. I mean, the draft, it's fun to talk about the draft, but I think it's more exciting if Justin Fields proves he's the guy. And the Bears have all these great options going into the draft. And, like you said, the trade out of one would get you ridiculous amounts because everyone believes that guy's going to be the guy. But if it was me and Fields is showing enough, I'd rather have the guy that I have now. It's still the draft. It's still a roll of the dice. There's been plenty of guys that are always he's a can't miss prospect. Those guys miss sometimes. Once you get in the league, things change. So I'm hoping Justin Fields can show he's the guy, and let's keep it going.
Yeah, and again, we're talking so much about DJ Moore.
Yeah.
That happened because the Bears had the first pick and they were able to
Yes.
trade out of it, right? And they still have this pick next year, which may turn into even more capital, which would be amazing. So we're going to take a quick break. On the other side of this, we'll talk about everybody's favorite segment, the Three Bears. Stick with us. All right, Lester, Three Bears, hot bowl of porridge, cold bowl of porridge, and just right. Who did you have for the hot bowl of porridge? Where could we possibly go here?
I mean, it's DJ Moore. It's got to be DJ Moore. I mean, I also wrote down Justin Fields because, back-to-back 4 touchdown games is pretty impressive. I think the last time it's happened was Jay Cutler back in that era. And, but man, DJ Moore, man, second most ever receiving yards in Bears history, 3 touchdowns. He is, like you said, he's on pace for some records here. And that's, again, you get that number one, and it's funny because, there were some Panther fans that were talking a little trash, in the offseason. Oh, he's not that good. He's not a true number one. Like, I don't know, man. He's put up some pretty good numbers there. I mean, I think a lot of it is like we've talked about. A lot of fans having their idea a number one is a 6'4" physical specimen. And that's not what all number ones are. Stephon Diggs ain't 6'4". I mean, that's not who he is, but he's a true number one. Cooper Kupp, I mean, he may do a lot of his damage out of the slot. He's a true number one. I mean, number one receivers come in all shapes and sizes, and DJ Moore is definitely that guy.
Yeah, it's a guy you can run your offense through. That's how
Yes.
I define what a wide receiver one is. I don't want to get into some weird argument that, like, well, he's not as good as Justin Jefferson. Sure,
Yeah.
only Justin Jefferson is
Okay.
as good as Justin Jefferson. What are we talking about here, right?
Yeah,
So
for sure.
let's not worry about that comparison. But again, if you can run your offense through that wide receiver, that's a wide receiver one. So
Yeah.
he's incredible, absolutely deserving. I've got a couple more I want to make sure that they get served here. We got to talk about Kari Blasingame, right? We
Yes.
got to talk about the fullback
Fullback. Yep.
stepping up when all of the running backs got hurt. Kari Blasingame came into this game. Now, he has played in the NFL. This is his 5th season in the NFL. He had 3 carries before this game. 3. Those were as a member of the Tennessee Titans back in 2021. He had 8 carries in this game to try to help salt this away. 8 carries for 26 yards. Good for him, man. Like, good for him. Like, that's great. we love fullbacks, and we obviously want to give a fullback shout out when he has 8 carries, which was more than his entire career up to that point. Hot bowl of porridge for Kari Blasingame. And then I got to mention Greg Stroman Jr., right? He had an interception, which was a very nice play. It wasn't like a gift. He broke on the ball. It was a big play and had a sack. Like what a night.
What's the last time a Bear had an interception and a sack in the same game?
I have no idea. Do you know?
That's a question we should ask for Jack Silverstein. He probably would pull that off his stuff memory. But yeah, that's a and maybe one of the people listening could kind of let us know who that is, because that's a interesting stat. I was close to going Stroman because I looked at the numbers, overall numbers, and since he's taken over at nickel there, I think he has two games where he was a primary nickel. One game he had to come in and as a reserve. The pass rating against for Stroman, he's the tops in the Bears. You know, I wasn't expecting that. I mean, he's just a good athlete. And Taylor Dahl is having a Greg Stroman episode this week on Her Making Monsters. I'm not sure who she's talking to, but it's going to be someone that's going to be fun because they're going to give us an insight into Stroman, who has had an interesting career. I mean, he started off with the Commanders, had some injuries, kind of bounced around the league a little bit. I think the Bears may be his third or fourth team. You know, Kyler Gordon's back this week off IR, possibly. He's clearly the Bears, nickel back, but Stroman may deserve some playing time. They may go some dime stuff just to get him on the field if he's making plays.
The injuries create opportunities for players, right? And you never know what you're going to have. A lot of times these guys get in and you're like, oh, okay, that's why he was a backup, or that's why that guy was on the practice squad. Okay, that's fine. But sometimes you get opportunities and these guys show out, right?
Yeah.
Who knew that Jack Sanborn was going to be a player last year, right? He had the opportunity and he steps up and he makes plays, and now he's, in the rotation regularly. So I have to shout out a guy that gets a pick and a sack in the same game. That's fantastic. That is a good question. It'd be interesting to see if you can go back and, I mean, again, sacks have only been around officially since 1982, but it'd be fun to see who maybe pulled off that feat in the same game.
The stat head. Someone has a stat head membership through.
I bet you Sam Householder could pull that out for us. I think he has
yeah.
one of those, so maybe we can ask him to do it if no one in our stream hasn't done that already. So let's turn it around and let's go again in a win. But again, we have to stay balanced even in wins. So in a cold bowl of porridge, what do you got?
What is Dominic Robinson doing? Zero stats. He got a half sack last week, kind of a cleanup thing, but I'm just not seeing him make any plays. And I thought he'd be a guy that the Bears were counting on, because they didn't make any big splash at edge. I like some of the film he showed last year as a raw, rookie, quarterback receiver in college, kind of learning the tools of the trade. And I thought an offseason would happen. I think you'd have a nice start to the season. This hasn't happened. I mean, he's in rotation. I think he played like 20 some odd snaps last week. Like I said, no stats. If you're the speed rusher off the edge coming in to kind of spell the starters, get some pressure, get something, get in there. Dominic Robinson's a cold guy this week.
I mentioned on Twitter today that we're 5 games into this season, and one thing that I have noticed is that I am having a really difficult time with the number change, where Yannick Ngakoue purchased the number 91 from Robinson, and so when Yannick makes a play, I initially think it's Robinson, and this is what happened this week. There was that little cleanup sack that Yannick had. And I was like, oh, Robinson gets a cleanup sack. No, it's Yannick. Like every time that happens, like in 5 games in, I don't know what it is. Like,
but I think if Ngakoue was playing better, he may distinguish himself with that number a little more. But he hasn't really had the best start to his Bear career either.
I tend to agree, and like you said, like he filled the stat sheet with a cleanup sack. I mean, it's kind of a gift sack there, where Howell kind of ran into him. But I mean, he's still got to be there. He's still got to make the play and all that. But still, it was, whatever. I mean, again, I don't know. I can't remember another time where a player bought a jersey number, for the Bears anyway, and where that player was still around and still playing, because I'm really struggling with it. Like every single time I see it, I'm like, oh, that's not Robinson. I got to tell myself every game. All right. I actually have 3.
For 3 colds?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Okay. All right. So cold bowl of porridge goes to spraining Khalil Herbert's ankle with a short pass. Don't do that again, please. That was bad. Khalil
That was
Herbert
rough.
was having a game too. Khalil Herbert looked good and looks like he might miss some time. I talked about maybe putting him on the short-term IR with the designation to return, which means a minimum of 4 games missed. I think part of why they might do that is because they want the roster spot, and they might think, well, it's probably going to take a couple weeks anyway. High ankle sprain usually does that, and so they may just do that just to open up the roster spot. But Cold Bowl Porridge goes to that pass. I didn't like to see that. Uh, Larry Borum had a tough game. Sorry, my man. Like it was just not great. That's a very good defensive line, but again, for people that were pretty excited about Borum, this is actually the other side of it. This is the other side of why he's a good swing tackle, but he's not a guy that you want to necessarily see starting 17 games. He's more of a guy that you plug in from time to time, but he's going to struggle. And if you don't give him help with superior competition, then you're going to see results like this. It's not necessarily
And
his fault.
this was superior competition.
100%.
Chase
These are
Young
really good
outstanding. Yeah,
guys.
really
Yeah,
good. Yeah.
these are really good guys. But it's more to just kind of bring up the other side because I see a lot of people get pretty positive about him sometimes, and I think that yes, as a swing guy, right? Like again, don't get too over the moon with him because he's not necessarily a guy that's a full time starter. But again, if you're not doing anything scheme wise to help him out, that's kind of on you as well because you should know his limitations. And then my third bowl goes to Cody Whitehair snapping the football. And you and I have argued about this over the years, but Cody Whitehair had to come in and play center, and boy, those snaps were rough. And I think you said something. Well, he just needs to shake off the rust. My
Yeah.
man, he,
There's no
he has
rust.
had
Yeah.
problems with it from the start. So I get it. It's not something I was ever able to do very well. When I played center, there's just something about it that I was never good at. So I can kind of feel his pain. But you got to lock that in, man. Like that's something you got. And I think his technique was a little different than the past too. I feel like he was maybe snapping it a little different, which I'd have to go back and maybe see some old film. But I think he actually did try a different technique because I think he knows he struggled in the past. Almost a catastrophic mistake. That one that was over Fields' head that he
Yeah.
turns into a first down run. I mean, just a easy button cheat mode kind of guy that Justin Fields is. But I gotta at least call out Cody Whitehair's snapping as a Cold Bowl Porridge.
Yeah, we have had the Cody Whitehair discussion several times, and especially the Aussie when they said they were going to make him the center. You were very concerned because of his passing. I'm like, well, maybe a full year with a new regime. Maybe he'll get into it. He'll get a good rhythm because a lot of it is we've heard that Cody Whitehair tends to get in his own head sometimes. That's kind of what we heard about early in his career. He kind of overthinks things. So okay, let's see what happens. Then of course there's some injuries. He's back at guards, and now he has how much has he really snapped? So this week coming up is going to be his first time really being a full time snapper. We're assuming they're going to let Tevin Jenkins. We haven't even talked about Tevin Jenkins. We're assuming we're going to have Tevin Jenkins back at his left guard spot with Whitehair at center. Lucas Patrick is in concussion protocol. Dan Feeney's on the roster. There's some options at center there. So if Cody Whitehair does struggle a little bit, I think they may make a move there. But they like Cody Whitehair. I mean, they're pretty clear cut there. That was their guy. They did not go after a center in the draft when they could have. They did not sign a guy in the draft or in the free agency when they could have. They believe in Cody Whitehair, so he better get those snaps in the gear because he's going to be the guy.
All right, what about the Just Right Bowl for you?
This guy had 5 catches, 42 yards, 1 touchdown where he separated from a linebacker coming across the field there. Cole Kmet, man.
Yep, that's the one.
This is just who he is,
Right.
He also had a design screenplay to him where he looked like a clunky doofus. That's just not who he is.
No, don't do that again.
This is Cole Kmet. He's fine. He's on pace for like 700 yards receiving, like 10 touchdowns, like 65, 70 catches. He's on a pace for a career year this year. There are still some fans that they hate him. They cannot stand Cole Kmet. I know a lot of it is because he's a local guy. So there's that anti-local guy. Oh, people like him because he's local, so I'll hate him because he's local. He's fine. He is who he is. He's an okay blocker. But stop designing plays for Cole Kmet, please, Luke. He is not that guy. He is not a classic joker tight end, a move tight end. He is your inline guy. He's athletic enough to move around, but don't design plays for him. Let him just work the zone. Let him run down the seam. Let him do some things in the passing game as your second or third option, which if DJ Moore is your true number one, I think he's benefiting from this. So Cole Kmet, man.
I I had the same thing.
Yes.
Again, normally I write down 2 things just in case you take mine, but I thought to me this was the perfect just right. It was exactly the type of Cole Kmet game that you
Yeah.
might expect, right?
Yep.
Like, just kind of one showing maybe some limitations and then also showing what he can do. And again, found it very funny. All of the love that Kirk Herbstreit was showing.
Oh man.
What a luxury. What a luxury it is for Justin Fields to be able to target 6'6", just like it's the first tall person he's ever met in his life. But it kind of reminds me a little bit of like Jason Witten, right? Jason Witten might be in the Hall of Fame, so this is not like
No.
a question of that, but it's more just like when I watch Jason Witten, it may have just been the second half of his career, but this was a guy that just sort of ran 8 yards down the field, found a soft spot in the zone, turned around, caught the ball, and fell forward. It was pretty much what he did,
That's
and
all
and
you
he
have to do.
did it for years and years and years. Now he's a better blocker and all that, but like that was pretty much what he did in the passing game, and I think in a lot of ways that's what Cole Kmet can do for you, right? Like he can kind of just find a soft spot in the zone. He can act as that second tertiary option, whatever it is. But you don't run your offense through Cole Kmet, right? Like, and that's
No.
fine. You don't have to. You're not paying him to be Travis Kelsey. You're paying him to be Cole Kmet. And this is the type of game that you expect out of Cole Kmet, and it's fine. Perfect.
I think if they would stop trying to design plays for him, I think if they just would stop doing that, I think a lot of fans would kind of come back because as soon as that play happened, and I'm like, oh yeah, Twitter's going to be all over this, And then of course our chat, we're in a chat, and some of our colleagues in there, they're not big Cole Kmet fans. So as soon as he scored a touchdown, I put in that chat right away. Cole Kmet, all he does is piss off this chat and score touchdowns because that's who he is. I mean, this is Cole Kmet. This is a perfect game for him. Some ups, some downs, but ultimately he's making enough plays for you to win some ball games here. Let's keep this,
100%.
let's keep this streak going. Let's get a win in Minnesota with Cole Kmet, another tutty. I could
Heck,
feel it.
absolutely. So, um, I don't have much else on Victory Monday after a Thursday night win. We had plenty of time to come down off the high, to kind of go back and watch this one, think about things, digest, all the think pieces and all that stuff. And I think overall, my thought is I like to watch my favorite football team win games. And if they can do that more often, that would be great because everybody's just in a better mood.
Yeah.
And I know I would imagine that many Bear fans know a lot of Vikings fans. And I had to put up with a lot of Vikings fans chirping last year, as I'm sure many of you did, off of this 11-0 one score game, BS. And then they got bounced in the playoffs by a bad Giants team, right? And I kept saying to them, you know, you're rebuilding. You better watch out. You can't expect 11-0 again, right? Stop talking 3-win Bears team fan, all this, right? And the Vikings have the same record as the Bears. And I would love nothing more than to see the Bears knock the hell out of the Minnesota Vikings this weekend. So let's do that. Let's have another Victory Monday next Monday.
It'll be nice. I mean, when's the last time the Bears won 2 in a row?
Man, I mean,
Was it
I don't
last
know.
year? I can't even
It's
remember.
been a
It's been
while.
so long.
Well, they only
Yeah.
won 3 games last year, and it definitely wasn't in a row, right?
No.
Yeah, so, yeah, there was the opener, that they won, and
San
then they
Fran,
won they won against the
Houston.
Texans, but I don't think that was week 2, and then
I'm
they
not
didn't win
sure.
for a while until
Yeah.
October, so and then they didn't win again.
But it's definitely much more fun to have a win here to discuss. And I'm with you. Then Vikings fan are really chirpy for whatever reason, and we're like, I don't know, man. I mean, I'm not a big trash talker anyway, but for some reason they come at me, and I'm just like, I don't know, man. Let's wait and
Everybody
see how
picks on
the
the big
season
guy.
plays. I guess let's see how it plays out because the Vikings had a lot of very very close games, and those tend to usually flip the other way the next season. So here they are, 1-4. This would be the battle for the cellar in the NFC North this Sunday.
Yes. We don't want to win the cellar. We
You
want
don't
to
want to win
go
the cellar.
ahead of the cellar, so
Yeah, third
we
place.
want to
And
win the
then if the
game.
Packers lose tonight, they'll be 2-3. And then I'm not
Yes.
sure how the yeah. So
Although I think the Raiders are bad, bad. So we'll see how this plays out. But
Yeah.
we will stick around to hang out with the crew that is filling up the comment section on YouTube. If you want to join that section, if you're listening to this, later on podcasts, we are here every Monday night at 6 o'clock Central Time to hang out on the Second City Gridiron YouTube channel. We also do other things on the website, like write words that form stories that go up on a website. If you're unfamiliar with that, check that out sometime. We've always got some fun stuff popping there. Check out our colleagues; they're doing great work. Again, we've mentioned Taylor's show, multiple really cool interviews that are coming up, highlighting different bears, and that series continues to just be a lot of fun. And just make sure you're checking out our stuff. Anything else?
No, that's good. A lot of injuries this week, so make sure you guys tune in for Mason West's bare bones on Thursday night at 5, because I'm sure he'll get into the really deepness of the high ankle sprain, what it is, the concussion protocol, all that stuff. He does a great job with that. So just stick with us, and we got you covered.
Perfect. Well, until next time, guys, bear down.
Got to write down those timestamps, huh?
Got it. Nailed it.
Nice. I'm terrible at it. I forget every time. So
There isn't enough talk of how a team on a 14 game losing streak. Uh, well, I mean, got a let's go Bears at an away stadium. Yeah. Hey,
that
it
was
showed up,
interesting.
right? There
Yeah.
was a lot of Bears fans.
Bears fans always travel,
Right.
even when
Right.
they suck, and which they've sucked a lot in the last 30 years. So
I,
yeah, they travel.
it's
I love
also
it.
an easy ticket to get, from what I understand. The Washington games are pretty cheap
Oh really?
relative to other. Yeah, I mean, you'd think East Coast might be expensive, but I've always heard that that's a I don't know if their fan base just isn't excited or what, but it's a cheaper ticket to get. I did not go to Kansas City because it was an arm and a leg. And I'm so glad I didn't go. That game obviously turned out to be really bad, but
It
like
was brutal.
it was like $400 to get in the door or something like that. I mean, no thanks. And
Yeah,
for a nosebleed, no
I
thank
mean
you.
that's a pretty loyal fan base for years, but they've had some pretty bad ownership for a long time. They're kind of turning things around. I'm not feeling the Commander's nickname either. I think there's some talk they may
They're
make
gonna
another
change it.
change.
Yeah.
Are they going to change it again?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you see the David Chang special before the interview before the game started?
No,
Do you know who David Chang is?
no.
He's the So he's the head chef, founder, whatever, of
Oh yeah,
Momofuku.
yeah. It's
You
actually,
know,
yeah, I saw
he
that. Yeah.
does. He did Ugly Delicious, is which is the best food related show that I've ever seen in my life. It's on Netflix. Check it out if you haven't. Honestly, like I've watched the barbecue episode on Ugly Delicious like 6 times. Like I just think it's a really powerful, beautiful episode. Anyway, um, he's from the DC area, and he like drifted away from the team because ownership and all this. And so they did a piece with him, and he's like, it might be time for me to come back. And they're like, so are you ready to be a fan again? And he goes, well, I need them to change the name because I can't buy into Commanders. And I was like, fascinating, right? Like, that he's like, yeah, which the story was that with that was Snyder, well, at least that I understand anyway. I could be wrong, but it was like a local lawyer that patented all of the like potential names that Washington would change their name to. And it was, as he said, to protect it from somebody to try to make a quick buck. He was doing it on behalf of them, which clearly he was doing it to make a quick buck, right?
Yeah.
And so to spite this guy, Snyder goes out and he names him something that wasn't on this like list that this guy trademarked. So like all of the like good names were trademarked, and so they went down to like Commanders, which is a terrible name. And so anyway, I find it funny. I mean, it's such an American story, right? Like this
Yeah.
capitalist society that we're in, somebody like thinks ahead, grabs all these names and wants to make, I don't know, $100,000 off of it, or I don't know what it is. And Snyder's like, no, I'm just going to name him something stupid. And all the fans hate it. I love it. Tevin was back, man. Yeah, we didn't talk a lot about it. He only had, I think, what was his snap count?
37, I believe.
Okay, yeah,
Pro Football
but
Focus had him down for 0 pressures allowed, and I thought he played really good. He was one of the guys I thought about for Trench tribute. He's just I'm such a fan. I want him to be the guy. I hope he stays healthy because he is just fun to watch. He's just he has that personality too, and we just hope that he can become the guy because 10 more years with Tevin Jenkins would be fine with me.
Oh, this is a good stat, Cloudy. 13 more years and Moore has more receiving yards from anyone last year. Oh, last year was bad.
That sure was bad.
uh Man. Um yeah, Billings has been great. I've watched him in his previous stops. I thought he was a good football player. So I don't know what, sometimes defensive linemen just do that, or that, a lot of times they don't want to sign really big guys because they worry about them kind of getting lazy with multi-year deals, and they kind of want
Yeah.
them on the 1 year things. But I'm not saying that's Billings thing. I'm just saying, like, you hear that a lot with some of the bigger guys. They're just worried that they'll kind of get a little lazy. Um, I think that's probably a pretty over. That's an exaggeration. I don't think that
Yeah.
happens a lot, but I think it's enough of a fear. um, you know, I shared with you that, Moon Mullen, when I had that long sit down with him at camp once, he said there was a Bears player that Pace would not extend because he was worried he would eat himself out of the league once he paid him. So not the person that you think it is, that it is listening out there, but I thought that was a pretty fascinating story, that people really do make decisions like that.
Yeah.
They're really worried about these guys maybe getting paid and then not paying, playing up to that contract. So
Yeah, I think Billings on third down. I mean, his pressure numbers are pretty good. He can push the pocket. I know the Bears have been doing a lot of stuff with their kicking in Demarcus Walker in the D tackle, but I want more Billings. I think he should be there.
yeah, I didn't see the blitz rate, if that's right. I mean, that's so much better than the like 15% or whatever it was before that. I mean, I just don't understand what he's been doing. The first, he being Eberflus and the defensive coaching staff, doing with the fact that you don't have any ass kickers up front. So,
Yeah.
like, what are you doing trying to pretend like you can just sit back into soft zones? You have to force the issue. I like coaches on both sides of the ball that take the action of the other team, that
Hmm.
are the dictators. And if you get beat that way, fine. Like, I mean, like, that's fine. But if you're the aggressor, that to me is a way I want to go down swinging, right? Like that's the kind of football that I like to see on both sides of the ball. And if you've been a Bears fan for more than 20 seconds, you probably like that too, right? Like, that's Buddy Ryan's defense. That's what that was. Like, we're going to dictate terms. Can you get beat that way? Sure, you can get beat that way, but it's way more fun. The players like it a lot more, right? Like, you play with your hair on fire, and generally, like, good things happen. And in this league nowadays, I think it's all about. I think a lot of people say, "Oh, it's prevent the big plays and all like that." I think it's about stealing possessions.
Yeah.
That's what I think this league's about, because you want to try to steal a few possessions for your offense to score more. I think that's where the league is going. I could be wrong. It could just be, trying to make, bend but don't break. But man, I think you bend and don't break into giving up 40 points pretty regularly.
There's just too many capable quarterbacks that can just tear up a zone. And we've seen it here with the Bears. I mean, they've given up a lot of yards to a lot of quarterbacks through the years and through this Eberflus era. It's the defense works when you have the guys to run it, and it's very rare. I mean, the Lovie Smith Bears, they could run this style of defense because they had those exceptional athletes, exceptional cover guys. They don't have it. I mean, they asked Coach Flus about it today in his press conference about his blitz pressures going up, and he said it's just necessity. I mean, they got to do some different stuff. And they asked if he did it before in his career, and he said not really, but he has to do it now, and hopefully he keeps it going, because it's like you said, it's more fun to watch a team that kind of takes chances. If you're going to get burned, at least let's get burned. Taking all the chances we can.
I thought that Justin played overall captured most of those plays that were on the field available to him. I didn't see a ton that were missing. I think you can say that pretty much about any quarterback at any
Yeah,
time,
there are
right?
a
But
few.
yeah, I mean, there's a few, but overall, I mean, you got to be pretty happy with 4 touchdown passes. I mean, it's just,
I like it.
yeah. I mean, it's something I could definitely get used to seeing. Right? Oh, another 4 touchdown passes
Let's
to
keep
Justin
it
Fields.
rolling.
Oh,
Yeah.
what a day. That must be like what it's like to be a Chiefs fan. Like, oh man, Mahomes is playing okay. Let's look at these stats. Oh, he's got 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. Oh, I didn't even. It's just they're so
You take it for
spoiled.
granted over there. Yeah.
I got a friend who's a Chiefs fan, and he sent me some stuff about Fields. His, blah, blah, blah. And I go, look, I can't listen to you.
Yeah.
Like, you have been watching nothing
Yeah.
But Patrick Mahomes for years, like you don't get to talk about other quarterbacks. He's just in a different stratosphere. It doesn't even make sense for you to try to compare. Um, don't try to get other players hurt.
Yeah.
There's someone that we know. Why is Deontay Foreman here? Well, this is why he's here,
This is
right?
why. Yeah.
You know that a guy's running backs are going to get hurt. It's just it's a position where guys get hurt. So, um, you know, I it is what it is. I think that he's a good running back, and he'll be able to come in and fill in just fine. You hope that Roshan can bounce back quick, and maybe he can be the lead, and Foreman can be the number two. But if not, Foreman's got experience coming in and being the number one back, and this will be no different. He'll be fine.
Yep.
It's nice to have a good stable of backs and not have to trust some random guy off the street that is a clear step down. These are all professional bona fide running backs. So Moore is a running back who can catch and run routes like a top 15 wide receiver. So sounds like a number one wide receiver to me.
That's it.
I suppose he could be a running back, but man, he's definitely good with yards after catch.
Yak.
But
Yeah.
yeah, and that was I remember talking about him when he was coming out. Like that was what people, hey, that once he gets the ball in his hand, he's really good after the catch. So that's absolutely true. Has Yannick? See, I did it right there. I thought Robinson.
You're
Nope,
flipped for me.
Yannick
Yeah.
has some speed needed for those cleanup sacks. I mean, the one that he had was like he didn't win, and he was kind of like shadow boxing the tackle, and then Howell kind of stepped up, and he just sort of slid off him for this. I was like, I mean, that's about as clean up as you can get, whatever. But you take it. It counts the same in
Yeah.
the stat sheet. Um, yeah. So the snap thing, I'd have to go back and look, but I think that he was doing the I don't have a football near me. Robert always had a football,
He
like he was
did.
always like
Yeah.
flipping a football up in the air.
Yeah.
But like I think he did the like hand on the back of the ball. Do you know what I'm talking about? The snapping technique where
It's
you're kind of
is
on
it
the
called the
back.
dead hand or the dead? There's one where you don't spin it.
I think he
Yeah.
was doing that this game, and
Yeah.
I don't think he did that in the past. I think he had the more traditional, like gripping the ball from like a normal way and snapping it. So I don't know if he tried to change it, or if it had something. I have no idea. I'd have to go back and look. I barely caught it. I was wondering if he was playing with a different snapping technique, and I may have made it up. But like to me, I think I thought I saw something where it was that, like you said, the dead hand, whatever that
Well,
was
makes
called.
sense. And a new O-line coach here the last couple of years, they may have looked at his past problems he had at snapping and figured he want to switch it up.
Feeney, we've talked about this a little bit
Yeah.
offline. If we thought Whitehair looked good blocking wise,
Blocking.
right? But you got to get the snapping down. But if for some reason, he has to miss time, or, you want to, why not? You spend a 6th-round pick on Feeney. You might as well, see what he is, see what he has, get him in here. I mean, you don't necessarily want to swap out centers too often, but if it continues to be a problem spot, I think you can make the argument that you get Feeney some time.
Yes.
Right. Some Cole Kmet talk. He's not Kelsey. All true. Cloudy runs the play all the time with Kmet and Madden. So like that's definitely what we should be going off of. I'm sure that's what Getsy was doing the first few weeks, was just trying to figure out, well, this play works in Madden. I don't know why it's not working here. And all I keep calling the same play over and over in Madden, and it's fine. Like I don't get punished for it in Madden. Actually, I think you even get punished for it in Madden at this point. Yeah.
Getsy's play calls the last few weeks, though, have been much better. He has not spamming the screen button as much as he was early. So, him and Fields have a good rhythm going, and that's it's good to see, because it was so bad the first few weeks.
This might be true. I don't have like a geographic spread, but I will say that, sometimes we can get reports from where our podcasts are downloaded. And obviously Illinois has by far the most downloads.
Yeah.
And then, like Iowa does pretty well, and Indiana's probably second, and, like the surrounding states. And then it kind of gets fewer and fewer, but, we'll get downloads from all over the world.
Yeah.
You think a lot of it's expats, but I think some people download it from everywhere, right? We get a lot of England, we get a lot of different European countries, but we'll get people from Africa. We'll get people from Asia. Like, I mean, it's all over the world that people download Chicago Bears podcast. I don't think it's an accident. I think that they're probably listening. And
Yeah.
so, fans are literally everywhere. And that's pretty cool. And probably DC, a place like DC is probably fairly
Yeah.
populated with fans of all colors. So, yeah, that makes some sense there. And Chris calls it a dead snap.
I've
There you
heard
go.
it. I knew it was dead something. I knew there was something dead.
Hey, he made it.
He's got a new thing here too. Detroit
Oh man,
mic
we almost
drop.
signed off, Don. We almost didn't get this. We almost didn't get your weekly appearance when the team wins. You're mysteriously absent when the Lions lose, but
But
when the
only one
team
lost one
wins,
this year though. So
yeah, they're looking good.
they
Which
are
is,
looking good.
you and I both predicted the Lions to win the division.
Yeah.
This is not a surprise. Again, I said anything short of a deep run in the playoffs is a disappointment to Lions fans. That's what this year is. Anything short of like NFC Conference Championship game, that is a disappointment for Lions fans. That's the bar that they have set for themselves. So anything short of that.
We can't end on Don. You got to throw one more up there.
Oh man, that was perfect. I don't know. They got a different defensive line, that's for sure. Are they playing the same? I don't think they're playing. I mean, this is Pete Carroll.
Doesn't Seattle have Clint Hurt, former Bear linebacker coach? Isn't he there, DC?
Yeah,
I'll
maybe.
have to look it up.
It's also got. I mean, they've also got Pete Carroll there, so there's got to be at least some merging of minds there. You know, I don't understand every team can say this.
Yeah.
It's like this is not like actually very inventive. Like this is every team can say it's them versus because it is like at the end of the day you're trying to best all 31 other teams. So I don't.
But I will tell you this: Chicago fans, we have really embraced the underdog status, though, and that's one thing I think is pretty unique towards Chicago. Is we really enjoy the underdog people, like the undrafted free agents,
That's true.
the guy out of nowhere. We really like those guys. The blue collar. I mean, that's part of that. I get part of it, but yeah, it's I'm good here. Let's go again. Win. Let's start stacking some wins. Get this into the playoff push here. It's going to be exciting because we
I
both
don't.
had them. We both had them in the playoffs this year.
I sure did.
I had them 9-8, which is
Yeah.
in the NFC. That's playoff time. So
Right. I said they'd sneak in the 7th seed. So
there's still time. Let's go.
all right. Well, we'll end it with Chicago versus everyone. How's that?
I like it.
All right. Thanks for joining us, guys. We appreciate it, particularly on a win. So let's try to do this again next week. See you guys.
Thanks.